So first of all, let me welcome all the AfriCert students to this interview. You have by now been learning a little more about entrepreneurship in African countries, specifically relating to foodstuffs and nourishment. I now have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Mitslal to you. Originally from Ethiopia, she's been living in Germany for years now and has successfully established 2 companies. One of those is Ecopia, that was established in 2006, and it's a zero-waste company focusing on the sustainable production and marketing of sheabutter products, soaps, as well as herbal blends. The portfolio of the brand has continually expanded and today ranges from coffee and tea to beauty and healthcare products. Seratera, on the other hand, is a service provider that offers training and digital services to African youth seeking to realize their business ideas and ventures. This is why I'm very excited to be having a chance to talk to you today, Dr. Mitslal, as an expert in the fields we've been looking at throughout this session. To begin with, could you provide us a little bit of background of how Ecopia developed from an initial idea you had to the company it is today?
Thank you very much. Actually, thank you. That is also dealing with the African students or professionals. The story of Ecopia and the link to Seratera tell us most probably what it means to be an entrepreneur in the African context, having the knowledge, the experience from the Western or European system. So I was educated, worked, have an experience of in an international organization, very determined, fast. They used to call me Africa Wind. And then for my personal reasons, I came to eastern part of Germany at that time and got married. And my dear husband at that time wanted to become a minister. And I wanted to have a child because I started my profession or my financial profession, let's put it, very early. So when I was 26, there was no way in the United Nations I could continue to make a pig, but I could develop horizontal. So I decided to come to Germany and I wanted to have children and I got married. In the process of supporting my husband, he became a minister and I had to step back because of my consulting company, which was mainly doing with a dual use technology to do. And then at this time, my friends who were European entrepreneurs, e-commerce and others, they say, well, it's easy to create a company in Europe because the platform is there, the support is there, the infrastructure is there, the market is there. So to be successful in Europe is easy. It's just, you need just a small innovation, have a good idea, good personality, a little bit resilience, and you can even make a mistake. Nobody would, even if you make a mistake, you would be supported. But in Africa would not be possible. That would show us you can do it in Africa. And then I went with my knowledge as a venture capitalist, having everything, having the market, went to Ethiopia. And in Ethiopia, I went as a venture capitalist. I have money, I have idea, I have a market. So I went to Addis Ababa and I wanted to do it the same like in here in Europe. I went to the university and I asked if I can make an incubation center and I will be investing. And to make it even easy, I took a product which was, a lipstick. The lipstick in Ethiopia, because we are fasting 107 days in a year, so the lipstick we use are not fasting lipstick. Today it's possible to call it a vegan lipstick. And I came with this vegan, which we call it Ethiopia fasting lipstick. So you have a market and the church will be happy. So I say to the students, come and let's sit down and create this market. But then at the university, when I wanted to create that company, the students came interested, but the room was dirty. And I said, come, let's clean the room and we will make it. But the students, they were rich family students, I suppose, who wanted to make a startup company. They say, no, they are not there to clean because they never cleaned also in their houses. And then I say, no, you can't become an entrepreneur if you don't know the whole value chain, if you don't know to do the whole from A to Z. And then I lost a lot. By then, I lost all my money and this and that. And the Minister of Education, she was a friend of, she was my teacher. And she says, if you want to tell me how to solve your problems, I will give you the opportunity to discuss. So in her office, I put it my PhD and I put it 1,000 US dollar. And I said, even if I don't change this 1,000 US dollar into 25,000 US dollar and register my company in 6 months, I would tear off my PhD. I didn't make it in 6 months. I did it in 8 months. But to do that, I had to go back as if I was the 4th grade student in the market, started from scratch, because in Ethiopia, there was no separation between organic, non-organic. And I went there and I used to cry, and to do it, I recycled the glasses. I made a zero waste company, because the lab in Ethiopia was, we were in 16th century and we had to move to the 21st century. And I had to take a strong lab. What was it? Organic, SDG, Sustainable Development Goals fulfilling. At that time, it was not said. And I took the best of it and I made it digital. I didn't make it in 6 months. I made it in 8 months. And with this, I created Ecopia. What made it possible for Ecopia was I didn't do it in the university. I went to the countryside. I did it with the farmers, where the pillar. Ethiopia, as we were not colonized, you can experience from the Stone Age to 21st century. So I put the pillar there. And then I put the pillar in the 21st century by making the company digital and zero waste. Mm-hmm. I sold my products. You still can find it in the Ministry of Industry. It's an investment of the future, which you do. So I created the company within the community, with the farmers, not in the universities. Mm-hmm. But today, some years ago, we reached it in the stage where the company is strong enough, but cannot play global. So in order to play global, in order to expand, in order to become bigger, we need the educated people to come in. That's why we created Seratera. We went back to the universities and say, okay, now let's make an incubation center, because we can link you with the 16th century. We can link you with the organic, what you have. We can link you with the problems of the people you want to solve. How would you give them a service if you don't know how to connect with them, if you don't know how to work with them? So I think I made it Ecopia because I have a resilience capacity. But secondly, greatly, was because the fact I optimize it on the problems of the communities. I say, okay, if the community have a challenge, give me your problems. I am the solution. I made money by becoming solution to the problems they have. The same is the 21st century.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned that it's basically also based in the knowledge and the abilities of the community that you were able to develop the product, the first product in the first place. Because imagining that in a university room, it might have been, a bit more challenging, or the way would have been longer, whereas in the local community you were able to also bring people together and collect knowledge, and I'm sure also learn a lot. You mentioned that you had to become a student again, and to kind of really go step by step and learn a lot yourself. So you mentioned that your first product was a fasting lipstick, and from there, how did you go to build the portfolio?
Okay, so the first idea of the company was to bring a vegan lipstick, but then we failed. So I had to go back again. The going back was, my PhD is a dual-use technology. So I was the one who promised Ethiopia to sign and ratify, like many 32 other countries, the Convention Against the Chemical Weapons, the CWC. And in this convention, one of the convincing elements I gave to the countries was, if you decide to show to the world you are against mass destructive weapons, you have the opportunity to technologies and knowledges and know-hows which are dealing with food, cosmetic, herbal medicine, health issues. And one of them, the simplest one, is jam making. If you want to make a jam, which is simple, you can ask yourself why Ethiopia didn't make a jam in the old days, was because you need a pectin, and pectin is a powder. An apple liquid becomes a powder to create a pectin. But the industry which will create that are using Schedule 2 chemicals. And Schedule 3, most probably 2 and 3. So they have to declare with whom they have a relationship. So there wasn't, who is in the Ethiopian farmers going to give you a dual-use technology, a dual-use document to import pectin? So I started, okay, I promised you, I show you how to do it. So I was the first one who imported that then a pectin, which is sign that your relationship with the industry in the West is for food sectors. So I started with a jam. So the first products, which was massively made, was 2 lines. We had food, but because, you know, as a social company, you need to deal with food. And I believe the future lies in the social company. But in Ethiopia, your margin of profit for food is 15%. You cannot make it. Your competition, and that is one of the challenges in Africa, is your competition is a robot-based industry, which is going to dump it. So we created the market, and Americans, Turkey, other companies came and dumped jam, everything, Apple, everything what we created as a market, it was fastly taken by the big industries. And then I say, no, I'm not going to give up now. So I say, okay, what is the most possible margin of profit? So what we did was, we, from the jam, you know, mango jam, you don't get a lot of money. But from the mango seed, you make an oil and you make a scrub. So you move to the cosmetic industry. And in the cosmetic industry, the African skin industry is very limited. So we got the market. And certainly, when we were doing that, I went into the most niche, which is making me today successful, was going back to the traditional medicine. I brought the traditional medicine, made it a 21st century product. So all Ecopia products are based from a traditional medicine, traditional knowledges, giving them the makeup, the stability, the marketing, the knowledge of 21st century. I say nothing more than what my grandfather used to be a healer, what my grandfather used to say, but in a modern way. When he used to say, your ancestors' spirit, wow, it sounded so esoteric, and for my PhD, might not be. But when I say epigenetic, it is something else, you know? So the whole thing is, that's why African entrepreneurs, African youth, they have to look what they have and what is needed in the world and in their own world first. So the biggest market we have is Africa. I mean, and that was the other mistake we made. So the reason we have in Europe the position as well as in Canada is because we need leads. We need, you know, when you make a jar, you have a lot of inputs which you needed for packing materials. And the world packing industry is in 5 or 6 hands. So you're not going to create the wheel, so they have it. So you need a foreign currency in Ethiopia if you want to buy that. So we have a products here to do that. But my biggest market, my future market is Africa. And that is why we created Seratera. Seratera is in order for us to create the African trade, which was made politically, but we want to feed it now digitally, materially, humanly on that. So the aim of Seratera is to solve the problems we were not able to solve in Ecopia. One is to go into the 21st century, which is the digital, because that's the only solution. The only way I made it in Ecopia was because I was digital. From the beginning of the company, you could go to our labels at the